Okay, hello everyone. Good morning. And I'm live on X and on YouTube. So check me out there. You can always write in the comments if you have any questions or anything. So this is Tuesday, August 6th, 2024, markets in the morning. And what we're looking at now is the NASDAQ futures here. And this is my Gann chart pulled up here on log scale. And so yeah, we're seeing a little bounce. Like if I go to the daily chart here, we're seeing a little bit of a bounce, but it's kind of fading a little bit as well, right? So one thing I just want to point out to you is it's not out of the woods yet. And just because there's a little bit of a reprieve right now, doesn't mean it's going to just keep exploding higher. There was a lot of damage done essentially with these three large candles. And on my Gann here, when I go back to the weekly chart, it's a better view of it for the NASDAQ futures. It's looking like it never back tested a level still, right? And that level does sit around 17,000, maybe 16.9, or just a little bit below. It could wick down into the mid 16s, right? So just want to point that out, that this could still be waiting for a successful backtest of a level before things go up again. And essentially, if I combine that with the Ichimoku here, that kind of lines up right here in time, maybe in early September or late August, that things could just continue sideways and then maybe lower around this time here, and then finally find a bottom here, which would actually coincide with these candles here, with the January and December 2023 candles right here. A successful backtest of that. And if it did wick a little bit through to maybe the 16.5s, that would be a backtest of this previous high right there as well. So what I'm seeing is this is still a higher low from this candle, but since it's never retested a level, that is a possibility, and we have to keep it in mind, right? And that is not out of the ordinary for a bullish market to backtest levels, right? And again, if we go back to this level here, the blue level, it happened, right? It went up. It didn't successfully backtest it here, but then right here in December 2018, it did. And if you guys remember, in December 2018, there was a lot of panic during that time as well. And then things just took off from there. Then COVID happened and so on and so forth. So just got to keep it in mind that things like to backtest levels, just like right here, this arc was backtested as well for the NASDAQ futures. So just want to keep that in mind, that it could drop another 1,000 points still, but not all at once, probably just maybe over time. So I wouldn't just expect something to explode higher, since there is more resistance above with that Ichimoku here. The baseline now sits at 19,000. And the conversion line sits at 19.1. So that is the resistance point there. Exactly, right? So if we also take a look at the, let's see, yes, this is the NASDAQ E-mini futures. Just on the Ichimoku, we'll take a look at. It's kind of the same situation, how there's a possibility of going back to retest levels of the top of the cloud down here, maybe around 4,800, 4,700. That is a possibility, right? Which also coincides with this level and the previous all-time high back in December 2021. So just want to let you guys know, things that were support, like this baseline, it was support. The conversion line, it was support. It has now been flipped to a resistance, right? And there's support levels until they break, right? And this was the support level, the baseline, all the way until it broke. And it broke, right? So since it broke, it's going to just take more time before price consolidates down to sideways and finds a new base, a new low, wherever that might be, and continue higher. So yeah, the S&P futures, they look like they've been extended a lot more than the NASDAQ futures, just by looking at this chart, because they have more percentage room that is potential to fall just based off of the Ichimoku alone, right? And let's see here. We'll look at IWM pre-market, see where that's going. And yeah, that one's up to 203.18 pre-market. And again, this was a support level. The baseline here, the orange line, was a support, and then it opened a new week below it. So that makes it resistance now, right? So essentially, things are probably just going to go sideways, maybe even down a little bit more to back test the level. That is a possibility. So there is a possibility to go back to 195, maybe even to the top of the cloud, because it really hasn't tested the top of the cloud since it broke out. See, back in November 2023, it broke out, never touched the cloud, never touched the cloud, never touched it. So there's a possibility. And now what do you see? The 45-degree angle and my cloud are exactly at the same level. So that could still be the target for the months to come before the election, right? So just want to show you guys that this is the new support zone because this support zone broke. Yes. Hello, Nathan. How's it going? So yeah, things are looking better in pre-market, but I don't expect a great day just because, or a great week really, just because resistance broke, or sorry, support broke, right here, support broke. So essentially, just more time. And can it come back up to that like 209, 210 level, the IWM? Yeah, it sure can. But if it gets there, I would not be excited because that is now resistance. And I don't get excited about resistance. I get excited about support. And support is down here, right? And it's almost there. And it almost hit there yesterday. Not quite, but it almost did, right? So just because for that reason, I think there could be more down to sideways for that. And let's check out Tesla pre-market. So Tesla pre-market, same kind of situation here. It's coming up to a resistance zone, right? 204.90, that baseline right there, the orange baseline, that is resistance now because you can see it broke above right here in June of 2024. And it was support until this week, and it opened below. So now a previous support is flipping to a resistance. So could also see some more down to sideways price action, right? You don't translate? Andrea, do you have a question specifically? So essentially, almost everything in the market, because of how it opened yesterday, previous support levels were broken. And once a support level is broken, it becomes resistance until proven otherwise. And the proof otherwise would be another weekly close back above it, right? So if Tesla did close back above it this week, then that would be support once again, right? That's how basically support and resistance levels works. If one breaks, then it goes to the next support level. And that's exactly what happened with my GAN here. This next support level did hit right at like 182, almost to the penny. It hit the arc, right? That is very, very successful. And if I just take off this Ichimoku here, you can see how beautiful that arc has been in the past, right? So we'll start with this blue level, how that level was resistance, right? See, this was a resistance here. And then it tried to flip it as a support here, but it couldn't, right? So if it can't flip something as support, it'll gravitate lower. But look at this arc. See, it was a support zone here. All these wicks through it held as support. Then it became a resistance zone here. You can see it tested it right here. It tested it right here. And then it tried to flip it to a support, but couldn't, right? But ever since right here, it's really been a support. Since June of 2023, look at this, a support here, and then that earnings report in January made it flip to a resistance here, and a resistance here, and a resistance here, but now it's back to a support, right? So this is looking really good for the future, but temporarily since the week opened below those indicators that I mentioned right here, then that really means that it's not really ready to break out yet. Right. But we'll see how this week closes. If it closes above 205, then I'll be back on like it's at support again and possibly can continue higher. Yes, good morning, Cecilia. All right, if you guys want me to look at any charts pre-market, go ahead and type it in the chat. Let's look at Palantir since they just reported earnings, right? So where does Palantir sit? Let's go zoom out here, take off my Ichimoku. It's at 27.15, 27.13 right now after hours or pre-market. And essentially, I was worried for a moment because it did close below this support level, my orange level right here. And essentially, I thought it was going to be flipping to resistance, but well, look where this candle, or look where the price is right now. So once again, this 24.60 is a proven support because this weekly candle is going to be opening up right up here, right? Well, it actually opened up here yesterday, but it's going to continue higher up to here, right? All right, somebody says Uber. Oh, I'm already doing Palantir. Yeah, let me just finish Palantir here and see if this momentum will continue. So turn on the Ichimoku. Yeah, it's above everything once again because the baseline is at 25. Oh, conversion line is at 25.53. Let's just look at the bull market support band. Yeah, that is above that as well. And the bull market support band is just the 20-week average with the 21 EMA. That's all that is. And now it's both above those as well. So the bullish trend is back on intact, I should say. And if price were to ever come back down to this zone down here, I think it'd be once again a good opportunity because it already went down and tested the previous candle lows down here, right? So it looks pretty good. It looks good for a continuation up to this angle. So the near-term target could be this $35, maybe by September, end of September, just because it looks like following this angle up as a resistance all the way. And where this angle meets the next resistance arc, that is sitting at 35.3, right? So that is probably my target within the next months or so. That this chart looks really, really good. Let's see. Uber. Let's take a look at some Uber here. All right, so just on the weekly chart here, we can see that support held perfectly yesterday at the bottom of the cloud right here. And now it's up here at 63.24, right back at the 50-week moving average. So I expect this to be resistance right here. So if anybody bought down here, maybe it could be a good idea to take some profits because look at this zone right here. From 63.11, the 50-week, to the conversion line, 65.12. And that coincides with the top of the cloud. It coincides a previous support level, now possibly flipping to a resistance. So what price sometimes does after it finds this support, it comes up to a resistance, gets stopped, and then comes back down to find a new higher low somewhere, wherever that'll be, right? So this zone right here is really, really going to be resistance for Uber from 63 to 65, maybe even just a little bit above to like 66. It could wick above, right? So this zone really, really is looking like it's resistance now and probably wants to head lower again before it finds another higher low. So that's what I'm looking at for Uber. And let's see. SOXL. Bull. Yeah. That looks like it's going towards resistance too. Yeah, if you look at this, really, what do you see? It did open below the 100, but now back above. And there's lots of resistance here with this 200-week moving average at 23.01. Oh, sorry, 31.05. And after that, it could continue lower and maybe get finally on the bottom side of the cloud. So got to watch these levels. But so far, the support is that 2580 of the 100-week moving average right there, just because it's back above it right now, right? So it's approaching resistance, and more resistance would be here at 30, 31. And if it got above that, then more resistance here at 35. But I expect the momentum to slow down with this 3x bull, really. I want to get too excited until it starts closing back above that 200-week moving average. Because you can see here, once it closed up here, it came back to back test it, and then it just took off, right? So need to see something similar, because as long as it's underneath there, I don't see things exploding necessarily, right? And Nvidia. All right, so Nvidia, also another case of we had support flipping to resistance. And just by looking at this chart, you can see this orange baseline right here. Look at how well it was staying above it the whole time, all the way here, right? Ever since January of 2023, it's never broken that baseline ever. And what do you see right now? It broke it, right? The momentum is not there anymore, which means price will most likely trend down to sideways until it finds a new higher low, wherever that might be. And that could be down near the 50-week, but more time could pass to allow the 50-week moving average to move up in price, right? So it's not necessarily just going to drop down there. What I could really see potentially is price just moving sideways for a while until it consolidates before it moves higher. So short term, it's a little bearish. Long term, I'm still really bullish. And the reason, if I go to the monthly chart here, it's still holding this conversion line perfectly, right? It's just even wicked right down there yesterday, held as support and bounced nicely. But as you can see, this level here got stopped out and it could not go higher. So if something can't go higher, it has to backtest support. And so far, this is support. So we're going to assume 92, 93 is a great zone if price were to go down there. And I think price could just consolidate around this range for maybe a few more months before it's able to try to push higher again. But my next target would be this 3.618 Fibonacci level. And I'll show you where that level is if you guys are new to this. So going back in time to the 2008 high to the 2008 low, right here, this Fibonacci level. Whoop, I don't want to do that. It hasn't even hit the 3.618. And the reason why I think it's going to hit there is because look at how accurate it has been, these extensions, right? This 1.618 was a perfect support. The 2.272 was a perfect support. And once it broke the 2.618, price wants to gravitate to that 3.618. So in the long term, I really think this 160 level is going to get hit, whether it's later this year or next year or whatnot. But essentially, short-term bearish for more consolidation to find a new higher low, wherever that'll be. And then long-term price is just going to continue higher and higher, possibly even up to the 4.236. But that will be many years in the future, not anytime soon. So this is why I'm excited about Nvidia in the longer term still. And thoughts on UNH? UnitedHealth Group. And yeah, this one on the monthly chart looks really good. Just put on the Ichimoku here. Like the last monthly close was a monthly all-time high close, right? It never closed a month that high ever in its history, and it's above everything now. So it's just trying to find a backtest of support. And if I go to the weekly chart, that support could be all the way down around maybe 535, just where the conversion line is. So Looks like it kind of got overextended. It couldn't keep going higher, so now it looks like it just wants to find a new higher low on the weekly chart, and that could be in the 430s all the way down to maybe the 530s all the way down to the 513s. And we'll take a look at Square, or Block, I should say. So yeah, Block is one of those that lost support a lot. It really lost support all the way back here in May of 2024 when it started to close underneath the baseline right here. And ever since then, it's been making lower highs, right? This high from here. And now it's trying to find a higher low. And that could be all the way down here at the 48s. It's a possibility, right? But so far, if you just look to the left of the charts, you can see that this is a support zone right here because it held support there. And that's why it kind of bounced. And if you look to the left even more, there's a wick right here in that zone too, right? And even there's some candles here in that zone. So this, if you draw just like a box going across right here, all the way, even up here, you can add, like, that is a good demand zone, right? So as long as this zone holds, I think that's not really necessary to come back test this 48, but it still could stay in this zone. But we know where resistance is right now. It's going to be the bottom of this cloud, so it's around 6120. So support right now is at this level, and resistance is up here at the 61 level so far. And the next one, Enphase. All right. I like me some Enphase here. So this is my log scale chart. Even though it's still underneath all the indicators, I really like it, but I like it more on the linear scale chart, and I'll show you that in a moment. But just taking off the Ichimoku, you can see that the cloud is green in the future, which is good. It could lead to positive price action into this resistance. But you can see every time it gets back up to the conversion line and the baseline here, that it wants to get rejected and come back down. So the resistance zone does sit around 111, 112, all the way up to maybe 119, right? That is resistance, and even more resistance with this arc, right? I'll take off this cloud now. You can see it was resistance here, was resistance here. So it's going to be resistance again if it gets back up to the 128, 129. But if we take a look at Enphase here on linear scale, the reason why I like it a lot is because it's holding my angle of support here. It's holding it very, very well, right? You can even see in the past here, look at how important this blue angle is. Right here in 2019, it was resistance, and it was resistance, and it finally flipped it to a support. And it's really been a support angle ever since 2020, right? And if we look over to present day, yeah, it went down below, but that was just a scare, and it just regained that support again, and now it's back above that. So it's looking like it's just in like a tight wedge waiting out, and once it gets on the tops of this arc for good, then it's going to go up to the next level, and that next level, I believe, is 150, because look at that level. When you look all the way across, it was a support here, a support here, a support here, and then these big candles basically flipped it to resistance. So this 153, 155 zone is going to be a massive resistance in the future, but it's almost ready to break out, in my opinion. It looks really good. It just could take maybe into September or October, and then possibly price can go higher and higher. So yeah, I did Nvidia already. Good morning, everybody. The doctor trading, my charting tools are the Ichimoku, a lot of the SMAs, and this is the Gann square chart. But it's not just random. You have to put the right ratios and stuff like that. And it's all on my X, and I have a course all about it. And is there a specific theory regarding how prices move between support and resistance? I understand that typically if support resistance is tested, it takes at least one test before broken. Yeah, I do believe like at least the first time it touches, it holds as a support or a resistance, right? Then the more times it touches it, then it usually gets to break, right? And we'll see this with Enphase, right? That it's touching resistance so many times with this arc. See, once, twice. I thought it was going to break out here, but it didn't. It was just a fake out. And then it came back down to test support. And now it's looking like it's getting closer and closer to this resistance arc again. And yeah, so the more times it touches it, then more the probability increases of going through that and going higher and higher. But I believe this support is going to hold because it also keeps really making higher lows as well. If you look at this, it keeps making higher lows from the bottom here. Like this low is higher than this one. This low, it did stay. It did go higher than this one, and this low is higher than this one, right? So it is still making higher lows, and that's really why I think this low is going to hold. But a decision is going to get made, and either it's going to go down or it's going to go up. But because of this market symmetry, it looks like it wants to reclaim this arc as a support. So I rely more on the market symmetry more than just the more times it tests or touches a support or a resistance. Let's see, TMDX. TransMedics. All right, so just looking at this, it's losing the conversion line. Ichimoku, and what we can see that if it loses that support, then it's going to go to the next support level possibility, which is 120. Currently, the baseline down here on the weekly chart. But overall, the chart's still really bullish. It just, this 39% weekly candle exploded, so it just needs time to cool off, right? And I think that would be the minimum support level, 120. And since they're called support levels, that means if one level breaks, then you got to go to the next support level, which would be this previous all-time high. Like this zone right here would then be a new support level if that baseline broke, right? Just a simple back test of a previous high, right? Which could be in the low, or yeah, it could be in the high 90s all the way down in the 80s. We don't know, right? But again, I always say take one level at a time. And since this level broke, the next level is 120. So that's the level I would be looking at to hold for support. Let's see, GME. Ooh, let's look at some GME here. Yeah. I mentioned this on X, I believe, last week, that it lost my angle of support right here. Let me just zoom out so you can see the whole chart. You can just see the market symmetry of everything, how it went up to this level exactly, and this is why it got rejected. And then it's been trending down, finding support along the way, and it found the ultimate support here at the bottom arc of the blue arc. And now since it really lost this angle, it was riding it nicely right here. But that 12% weekly down, that weekly red candle, lost that support. So essentially what's going to happen, in my opinion, it's going to maybe retest the top of the arc, which you can see it's done many times, right? And it was resistance at one point right here. So a successful backtest of that zone in maybe the $16, $17 range could be possible, right? So I think the market just opened. So let's go take a look at the averages. Oh, all right. So we got ARC is green. Google is red already. Amazon Apple is down $4. Yeah, let's take a look at Apple. We'll look at Apple on my linear chart. Yeah, this is holding levels nicely, right? You can see that it already backtested my blue level right here. And I was saying that's a possibility for a long time. And it finally happened, which is a really bullish thing in my opinion. But what we got to point out is it lost the support of that conversion line up here. So that's going to eventually be some resistance in the future. So essentially, it's just still stuck in a range, right? Still stuck in a range. Yeah, and crypto glyph. Yeah, you're right. It was just backtesting the previous range, which also coincided with my GAN level as well. All right, let's look at Amazon here. And Tesla lost the 200. Yeah, so Amazon was just essentially doing the same thing, backtesting the cloud, backtesting an ARC, and backtesting this range right here before it broke out. So it looks pretty good for that successful backtest. But again, the resistance sit up here in the 170s. And so just got to understand that it's also just still in a range right now. And it's not going to explode higher. Like once this kind of damage is done, it doesn't take, or it takes more time to unwind, and it won't happen immediately. And I see CLSK on there. All right, yeah, CLSK, it's recovering back above my angle here, recovering back above this cloud. But again, I see resistance here around the $15 mark if price did get back up there, right? Let me just look at my say on log scale. Yeah, so even before that, this blue level here, 1374, 1370, that's going to be big resistance now, because if you look in the past for CLSK, it has been support. Then right here, it flipped it to resistance in 2022. Then here it was resistance, and then support was support, and now it's resistance again. So I'd be careful with this one, just because as it comes up here, it's going to get rejected most likely, and it's going to be resistance until proven otherwise. And the proof would be a weekly candle close back above it, kind of like how we saw right here. It was like a giant bullish candle, closed back above, then it was back to support. So the week's not over. There's still 4 days left, right? So a week does close back up here, then I'll be, ready to go back to the 15 resistance and so on, right? So just got to be more patient on that. Let's see. SERV, that was a request I saw by Fat Chen. SERV Robotics. Yeah, this one can't really do much on the weekly chart, so got to use the daily here. And let's see. Yeah, on the daily chart, it's still just in a range, and the conversion line at 1630 is going to be resistance. So just got to see if it can close back above that. If it can, then there's a possibility to go back towards the highs. But usually on new charts, it's a little more difficult to be more accurate. So just got to get more data to see what really happens. But at least we know 1630 is going to be resistance for that one. And support should be right here again, $13. Yeah, for luck flows, the GAN theory. Essentially, it's all about market symmetry, and the arcs are really just like Fibonacci arcs that are intertwined with the angles. So essentially, since everything's really mathematical, they become very, very precise. They're not just random, right? They're not just random graphs that you put out there. Just like a Fibonacci is not a random thing. Let's go look at the markets again. All right, IWM turned negative, but like I said earlier in the show, that it never hit support, right? It never back tested that support zone. So I wouldn't be too excited about any of today's price action just because everything's in range, guys. Everything lost support. I think almost everything lost support on a weekly basis. On a monthly basis, no. On a monthly chart, everything is still fine, right? But on a weekly chart, everything lost its support. And if it lost its support, it has to find a new support. And that new support is where it's always difficult to determine. But right now for IWM, it's in this range of 195 down to maybe even the low 190s, right? That's 45-degree angle, which lines up with my cloud, right? And let's take a look here. Yeah, so ARK is negative now. Tesla is also negative. We'll go look at Tesla again. Put it on the daily chart, see what we see. Yeah, so on the daily chart, it's trying to find support of the cloud here. And that could hold, right? But again, even on the daily chart, it's below this previous support, right? This baseline and conversion line, they once were support. And once it broke the conversion line here, it went to the baseline. Once it broke the baseline, it went lower, right? That's how charts usually works. Once they break a support, they find a new support. And that's what Tesla is trying to do here. But I think that already happened for Tesla with yesterday's candle. It opened down here at what did it open at? 185. Went down to 182, directly to the ARK right there. Was a resistance. You can see right here. Now it's a support. So I think that's the low. I don't think it's going to go lower than that. So right now it's just going to be in a range. And I think the closer it gets to this lower 180 level, then the better opportunity to pick up more shares, in my opinion, not financial advice. Right. And let's see what else is good here. Oh, Meta is green. Apple's down more. Let's look at Meta. Yeah, Meta is just approaching resistance again. So don't really, unless like this week continues higher and higher and higher and closes above 500 again, then I'll be happy about it. Or even closes above 492, 493, I'll be happy about it. But right now it's just approaching resistance, so it's not too exciting for me. Let's even look at Meta on linear scale. Yeah, I have my Gann levels here, and it's right at the top of the ARC too for Meta. So it's essentially right at resistance again. Let's take a look here. Let's just look at the QQQ now. Yeah, same thing. I mentioned this on X yesterday. Like, I've made a post about it. I said, don't get too excited about Q right now, because this arc right here, look at it, was resistance, right? Then it tried to flip it to support, but now it's resistance again, guys. So it lost the resistance of the Ichimoku, the baseline and the conversion line, and now it's losing the support right here of this zone. So now this is going to be resistance as well. So that 440 zone needs to break for me to get excited for a possible continuation towards the upper resistance levels up here into the 450s and 460s, right? So I still think there is a possibility to come back down here. I really do, right? I think that's a big possibility to come down to the lower 400s, right? And retest this bottom arc, because it never really did back here in April of 2024. It almost did, but it never did. So, and right now the top of the cloud and there is around the same level. So I could see this zone as a possible target. And also when you look to the left of the chart, these candles right here was a price before it really broke out. So a lot of things line up with this, and this theory is not going to change my mind until I see a weekly candle close back above this arc. And if I see a weekly candle close back above this arc, then I think it's not going to go back down here. But until it's like, the longer it stays underneath this as resistance, then the better the chance it has of rolling over and go into the low 400s, right? So got to keep that in mind for the QQQ, which could be an opportunity to pick up a lot more shares of everything else as well. And yeah, Tesla's down $3 now. Yeah, it's even below the halfway point between the 382 and the 236. The halfway fib is 0.309. It's even below that now, the 198. So I really would like to see it close above the halfway point, but so far it's not, right? So we'll keep an eye on that. But still, in the lower 180s, if it gets there again, I like it a lot. CIFR. Let's take a look at CIFR. Yeah, it's trying to get back and reclaim the cloud, the top of the cloud, trying to reclaim this angle right here. And this one looks good, right? It looks good. That support held, like the bottom of the cloud held perfectly. And I see where resist, it's all the way up here at 540. So it has some room to run, right? It just depends on really Bitcoin as well. Let's go back here. Yeah, Apple's now down $6. ARKK, where's IWM? It's holding at 202. Yeah. The Dow, SX, the green. Yeah, everything's kind of rolling over right now, really. It's kind of at resistance. Nvidia, yeah, it already hit the baseline as resistance. 103.50, that is resistance. But I still think the 93 level has a great possibility of holding for Nvidia, because a lot of confluence here with the bottom arc, and even more confluence with the monthly indicator of the conversion line is also at 93. Let's see here. Tesla is now down 4. Let's go take a look at Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin's the same thing, right, guys? Same thing. This baseline right here was a support for so long. Ever since October of 2023, now it's a resistance. So what's going to happen? Maybe a price will here to the 59, 60,000, 61, whatever. Doesn't really matter. But it's going to most likely get rejected now and roll over and eventually touch the top of the cloud. Possibly even go back to my angle, which I did a Bitcoin warning video on YouTube. And I said that if this orange level ever loses support, then the next angle below becomes a possibility. And now that there's even more confluence of losing the baseline and the conversion line even is crossing below the baseline, it's a TK bearish cross. That means price will probably go down, right? It's probably going to go back down to those lower levels, and which will lead to more panic probably. But the way I see it, it's just an opportunity, because if I take off the Ichimoku, you can see that orange level, right, in the past, that orange angle, how it's been pretty important the whole time as a support zone, right? It was a zone, didn't really hit it perfectly, but it was a zone. But here it was a resistance. Exactly. So a successful backtest of it with the world, it would just be a normal situation for that, right? But one thing I want to point out is Ethereum. Ethereum held so nicely. It already did its backtest, right? So even though there was there's Bitcoin not hitting its next level of support according to GAN. This one did, right? Ethereum did, which makes me a little bit more happy about it, even though it's still stuck in a range too, right? You can see that it's also looking like it might start to get on the bottom side of the cloud as well. So got to keep an eye on that. But essentially, support is down here at 2100 and resistance is up here around 28 all the way up to 3000 again. So also just, yeah, more thoughts on Tesla before I wrap it up here. Let's see, where's my Tesla? Yeah, I mean, it's just doing what I kind of figured it's going to do. It came back up, retested this as resistance, right? Because it lost the baseline 204.90 as support. Up to, what, 203.88, almost back up there, and got rejected. And if I look on the daily chart, we can see more what price is trying to do. And it's trying to hold the top of the cloud right now. That's what price is doing for Tesla. So I can see this level holding, really. I can see throughout the day it should hold, just because this kind of held yesterday as well, right? So it's just essentially back testing the level. This could be a good zone right now, but ultimately, the real base is around that 175, or if I go back on log scale, before that 175 is this 182, which is the arc. So this is like ultimate support, really, 175 to 182. So I like that as my levels. But for an intraday level, I do like this top of the cloud right now. So I think you can hold. What price can really do today is maybe try to push up towards the 208, right? But what gets in the way of that 208 is this 203. So price could push up the 203. If that can break, then possibly that 208, right? But I think really for Tesla, that could be the low for today. The, what is it, 192.65, just because it went down to test the bottom of the cloud or the top of the cloud one last time, right? So we'll see. This is the range, guys. That 192 all the way up to the 208. But on the weekly chart, that 203 is getting in the way, right? So this is the ranges we got to watch for. But I won't expect any exciting breakout higher. I'm just seeing everything is in a range still. From ARK to Amazon to Apple to the QQQ to Bitcoin. Everything is in a range. And until this resistance of the charts can get broken that I mentioned, there's not going to be any excitement. So I think just going to wrap it up. So those are the levels to watch out for. And I hope you guys have a good rest of today.